What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Agents of the Valley podcast. I'm Vin.
I'm
This is my
Julia.
my partner Julia here, and this is the podcast where we break down real estate, money, and mindset, especially here in the Bay Area, and without any hype, without any pressure, and without trying to sell you something. All
That's
right.
right.
So this is our podcast, basically to let the people know what's the real tea of real tea, basically.
What are we seeing as
Exactly.
agents every day in and day out, right? Working in this
Exactly.
market.
And today we have a super interesting episode, I'd say,
We
uh,
do.
about affordability. And it's definitely a hot topic, especially here in the Bay Area where affordability isn't maybe even a word here. People don't hear that word a lot. And with that, yeah, there is some truth to it. And we want to let you guys know on the scoop of why is it so unaffordable, but is it really impossible? Or are there still ways to get in the market and build wealth for yourself in a very competitive, expensive, hot area like the Bay Area?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, with that, me and Julia want to kind of go through what's happening right now and how unaffordable is it in the Bay Area and what prices are looking like, what you need to earn or have to be able to even buy a home. And me and Julia, we were kind of talking about this off air, but you had some pretty good examples of some clients that you've met and that you're helping and how this kind of thought of this episode came about, right?
Yeah. So recently we're in our spring market basically, right? So we have a lot of more activity than we had in the previous month, which is normal for us. It's part of our seasonality here. But I've recently started working with some clients, buyer clients. All of them are in tech. All of them looking to get into home ownership here in Silicon Valley at an entry point, a condo townhouse entry point. And so as we are kind of looking through the different available options and what their budget was, you could kind of really start to paint a picture of what we used to say is the entry point into the market, where the opportunity lies, which is in a condo or a townhouse, where the growth has come in terms of the gap of affordability or lack of. We have an aging infrastructure here in Silicon Valley in terms of our housing supply. You know, Vin, most of it was built early 1900s and on. And because of that, if you're, for example, trying to get into a condo or a townhouse, you're going to pick up an HOA, which is your monthly payment on top of your mortgage. And since these communities are older, they are requiring more infrastructure updates. And of course, that comes with added costs. And how does that get funded? Well, it gets funded through your HOA fees. So you're now looking at fees, which, I feel like then, like 5 years ago, even, we could have said, oh, an HOA, let's say like in Santa Clara, anywhere between 300, 600 would have been like the top end. Like I feel like, and that would have been like a really older community. But now when you're kind of looking at the HOAs, you're looking at, you'd be lucky to get in under 6 if you could. But like you had told me, upwards of $800, $900, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's
so,
pretty crazy. Yeah, actually, I have a buyer looking over in the Almaden area, and there's
mhm,
like this townhome community. It really reminds me of the villages in Evergreen. It's kind of like a
oh,
retirement home.
mhm,
So, it's like very nice and quiet, very well kept. Kind of looks like a resort or country club like kind of a thing, right?
mhm,
But not many amenities, even though it's clean. It's got like a gate and they take care of everybody's roofs and like the exterior. So that's the nice part. But
mhm.
even then, for those homes were built in the 80s and the HOA for those is $800.
Yeah. See.
And looking at the things that they need to take care of, like the roof and the paint and all the things that come along with the exterior, as we know, like everything's just getting more expensive to
Yeah.
maintain. So yesterday's HOA price doesn't cover all the costs that the HOA needs to be able to take care of the community and everybody's units. So we're just seeing everybody's HOA climb up and up and up.
Mhm, mhm.
So, all that to say, like, um, HOAs aren't evil, But the reason why we're really talking about this is because if you're looking at a single family home versus like maybe even a townhome,
Mhm.
the price difference is so drastic that some people will have to go in a townhome or condo if they want to buy. And they just have to really pay attention and consider these HOA fees too. But I think for a lot of people, if they can manage it, then it'll be a great stepping stone into you being able to afford that home that you really want to be in. Just because right now, buying a home without having any leverage, without having bought a home prior, it's just super expensive.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah,
It is.
and to kind of, like, let the listener in to why we're even talking about this is because Julia had sent me an article about how the American dream is renting now, where before the American dream was buying a house and being able to live your life, do the things that you want, and have a piece of Americana, a piece of land, and, have that kind of be your legacy and build wealth from there, right?
Mhm.
But we're noticing nowadays is that it's just getting so expensive. What is one of the articles, famous articles that we saw recently about the San Mateo County next door to us?
Mhm.
Like, what's the income that you need to buy there? It's like
Mhm.
500K,
Yeah.
right?
It's true.
In
Yeah.
San Jose, we're not so different. We're not so further away. I mean, in San Mateo, in household median price points are 2 million, which is why $5 million is needed. And in San Jose, the median price of a home is like 1.5 to 1.8. So we're not
Mhm.
that far away. So you need somewhere between like close to 300 to 400K to buy a home in San Jose.
Mhm.
With that, it's kind of a reality check for people who are interested in buying a home, trying to build that legacy, trying to build wealth, but have sticker shock
Yeah. Yeah.
of what the prices are doing. So
Yeah.
I
And it's
guess
I agree with you. And I mean, then this is on top of, right, inflation, rising grocery costs, necessity costs, everything is just
childcare, all the other
childcare.
costs.
Exactly. And then also, one other big piece of the pie when people are considering purchasing a home is always what is, their job. Is it stable?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so there's just all of these additional external factors as well that play into a person's decision and whether or not they want to become a homeowner. And because of the affordability issue, I last year or the end of the year preliminary numbers, they were saying the average first time home buyer, I think the age is 40 now. Yeah, yeah. So that's really that's really insightful to hear and really puts things into perspective. Home ownership is an amazing way to build generational wealth and financial stability in the right situation. And I think that's always important for everybody to understand. And like you said at the beginning of this podcast, we're not here to sell you anything. We're not those agents who are telling you it's a great time to buy because the reality is we don't know what your situation is. It might not be. I mean, rates could go down to what they were historically in 2021 where they were like historic lows around COVID time or right after COVID hit, and it still might not be a great time for you to buy. It's so person specific,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Uh, it's funny because you say 40, the average age of the first time home buyer is 40. And I'm like, man, I was thinking first thought, like, oh man, in 10 years, you're gonna have to be like 60 or 70 to be able to buy your first home.
Your first home and your retirement home all at
Yeah.
once.
But I want to talk to you about that because we're both agents. We both have clients who are buying these homes still, and when I hear these crazy numbers about what prices are doing and how much homes cost, I think one of the first questions that me or maybe some other people will always have is like, who the hell can afford that, right? And as the real estate agents, we do have clients that are still buying these homes. Like,
We do.
yeah, who are you seeing? What's the avatar? Who's the avatar buyer who's able to afford these 1.5 to $2 million homes.
For sure, these are seasoned tech professionals.
Yeah.
And they're not even necessarily entry level tech professionals. They're seasoned tech professionals. Interestingly enough, what I have seen a lot too in the past year and even more recently is a lot of people who are current homeowners here because they have accumulated so much equity. I mean, even in the past 10 years was I was in a different market meeting last week and they were looking at numbers and they were saying if you bought 10 years ago on average here in the county, you are sitting on anywhere between 600,000 to 800,000 worth of equity. That's astonishing to me. But you see, I do have clients who are taking that equity and they're buying the next home here. They're using that as the anchor to be able to stay here in our area. And so that's also probably what I would say another profile of clients that I see coming in, and they're repeat buyers, right? Which I always think says a lot. I know we have a lot of people who feel how they feel about our area for different reasons, but if you have people who are continuously buying and rebuying, there's a quality of life, right? That they're valuing. So I would say those are the two profiles that I'm mainly seeing, at least right now. How about you, Ben?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, you're either in tech, you're drowning in stocks that you need to get rid of, or that you're able to get rid of,
Yeah, to liquidate for that down payment.
right? Or you were lucky enough to buy a home before, or your parents had bought a home before, and they're
Hmm.
using their own equity to pass it along to the next generation, so that the next generation can be able to somehow afford to put a down payment on the house around here. So that's what
Hmm.
I was gonna ask you, is that perfect leading into my next question was, if you're not in tech, can you still buy a home out here?
If you're not in tech, you're going to need to look at different strategies and what options are available to you. You might not be able to get into a single family home, but you might still be able to get into that entry condo point. You might have to go a little further out in the county. So maybe it's not San Jose, right? Maybe it's Morgan Hill. I mean, even Morgan Hill has gotten expensive, but maybe it's Gilroy, maybe it's Hollister, and that's even a little bit broader than us because now you're getting into San Benito County. But there's a lot of outer development that has happened even outside of our county, more in the southern areas that have really great options for purchasing homes, right? So if you're willing to be flexible, I don't think that the issue of affordability is going to stop you from becoming a homeowner. You just have to be willing to be more flexible. And if that means location, then looking at those locations that are going to kind of match your budget and also try to strike a balance between what your lifestyle is, right? Because you got to be okay with, if you're going to pick up a commute, are you okay with the commute? Does it fit in with your family situation and whatnot?
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think,
So
Ben?
I agree with you. I think first off, if you're not in tech, good luck. But at the same time, no, if you're not in tech, you're still able to buy a home and try to get the original American dream it takes some creativity and strategies. And one of the strategies you just spoke about is managing expectations.
Right.
And with that, if you manage expectations, you'll be able to buy something. That way you can build equity upon, like we were talking about with some of our other clients, for example, what you were just talking about, and how you can use that to take your equity, sell or refinance, and get the equity out of that home that you purchased maybe 5 to 10 years ago, and then be able to move that onto the forever home that you really want. So that
Mhm.
is definitely one strategy. And I think that's probably the one of the most tried and true and best strategies,
Mhm.
because it's kind of like the rich get richer type of deal.
Mhm.
Like, obviously is not nobody, but a lot of people aren't just born rich. Yeah, maybe you were given something, but what I'm trying to say is that for you to be able to buy a house, you would have had to buy a house already before. This is one strategy.
Mhm. If you're not in
Yeah,
tech,
right?
yeah.
And to execute that strategy, obviously you have to buy that first house first. And buying that first house means that you have to change up your expectations, right? So
Yes.
maybe it's not the best location. Maybe it's further out. Maybe it's not the best condition. Maybe it's not a single family home, but it's a condo or a townhome. But the
Mhm.
point is that if you're able to manage your expectations, live in that type of home for a set period of time, we see that home prices here appreciate. And if you can hold on to it long
Very true.
enough, you use that appreciation to your advantage and buy the house that you really want.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's kind of it's interesting to me because I also feel like if we all think about it, we're all paying a mortgage even if you don't own a home. It's just, are you paying your mortgage or are you paying your landlord's mortgage, right? I mean, that's how we have to kind of reframe it. And so that puts things into perspective, right? Because then somebody else is reaping the benefits of owning property. It's not you, but you're the one footing the bill for it. So if you can manage your expectations and be flexible and see about purchasing real estate somewhere that would fit your budget, your lifestyle, your end goals, and then have a realistic expectation that this is not stock. It's not as like you will need to hold on to this for a period of time, right? I would say what minimum 5 years at least, right? To get a decent return on your investment, grow some equity, but at the same time have the perspective of even if you didn't buy this house, you would be paying to live somewhere. And nobody really stops to think that you get a zero return on your rent. You pay it, it's gone.
Yeah. So with that, yeah, no, I definitely agree and stamp that. With that, then it means, hey, keep an eye out for buying a home. Like, even though maybe I say, let me back up. I guess what I'm trying to say is that with that, you want to start really exploring, how do I buy a home?
Yes.
If that means saving whatever you can, begging and borrowing, just so that way you can get that first property, no shame, do it. Because at the end of the day, you either going to be a have or a have not. And just because you didn't want to ask for it or save for it or borrow for it, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, and you're going to be left behind if you want to stay here and be able to own something here. If you
Hmm.
don't care about any of that, then we're not talking to you. But if
Yeah.
you care about having a piece of the Bay Area at some point and be able to stay here and live here and enjoy here of all the benefits that we've got, then it will be to your advantage to start looking at, how do I come up with the down payment to buy even the cheapest home that I can here that I'm willing to live in.
Hmm. Hmm.
And for some people, maybe they're not so fortunate to be able to get like a down payment from parents, or maybe the income they're able to maybe support a monthly payment, but that down payment is like the ticket for everybody to get in, and it's a huge ticket because
Hmm.
to buy at least even $1 million home, you need at least 200,000, just kind of standard 20%.
If you wanted to get like the best rate
Right.
possible and most
Right.
ideal financing, definitely you need to come in with that,
Yeah.
20% down payment.
Yes. So for those people that we're talking to now that maybe aren't able to do a 20% down payment, like you said, there's one option there is, if you can handle the monthly payment, then go 10% or even 5%. Uh,
Yeah, look at down payment options that you may be able to work with for sure.
yeah. And then the next thing would be zero down payment options.
They do exist. They
They
do
do exist.
exist.
Right. And
Yeah.
what are some of these?
Yeah. So you and I have talked about it before. My husband and I, we purchased our first home with the 0% down financing. It was through Navy Federal Credit Union. I mean, we did, there are costs to do those types of loans. The monthly payment is higher. And so you do want to be mindful of, does this fit in within your financial capability? Right. And then also, what are your goals with this and long term and whatnot? But there are those options available. Right now we've spoken about condos as well, and just going to tie right back into that. I do feel like even though the market affordability is tough, there are these opportunities that present themselves. So for example, if a lower down payment option will work for you financially, the condo market is significantly less competitive than it was pre-COVID, right, Vin? So that could be your avenue to get in if it works. So yes, 0% down financing, 5% uh,
Yeah.
as well.
I kind of want to talk about this because I know we talked about this a lot before. For anyone who's new or hasn't been listening, that is a huge example that you presented, how you bought your first home was 0% down.
Yeah.
M- Maybe you can speak a little bit to that, how that was beneficial to you and your family, and then getting the home that you're into now.
Yeah. So my husband and I, when we had decided we wanted to buy a house, was around the time that my son was born. And even back then, the housing market felt tough, but we didn't have a lot of savings. Basically, we didn't have a 20% down payment. We were really intently focused on paying down debt. And then the next step was to buy a house. Through research and just figuring out what we didn't know, we stumbled upon that program with Navy Federal, which is a benefit that is extended if you've had parents or grandparents in the service, those benefits extend to you. Of course, you have to meet certain parameters for this loan program, income, credit, and otherwise. We saw this and we found our path into home ownership. We were able to apply for the program, we got approved for it, and then we used that to go into a condo in Santa Clara where we were for 2 years, and then we sold that and moved into a single family home here in San Jose. But that was how we got into the market, and we did that back in 2017, and it had just appreciated so much over those 2 years. It just coincided with everybody really wanting to have a condo lifestyle, and it worked out
How
for
much
us.
how much appreciation did you earn from getting that condo, and how much of that did you use towards the next house?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we bought it for 715, right? 715,000. We sold it for, I believe it was 865 or 885. I'm sorry, I have mom brain. It was
Yeah.
somewhere in that range.
So,
We
like,
def
more than 100K?
Yes, more than 100K in 2 years. We sold it almost 2 years to the day for tax reasons. And then we were able to use that. And we had kind of saved at the same time too, right? Because our careers, our income went up. We started getting additional compensation as seasoned employees of where we were working. And keep in mind, I have never been in tech. Hey, my background is not tech. My husband's background is not tech. My father is not in tech. My mother, she does accounting. She's worked for a tech company, but she's not, I mean, she probably wouldn't
Engineer.
call, yeah, she's not an engineer. So we are not a family from a tech background, but we were still able to figure out a path to home ownership, and it has worked out extremely well for us. So a big part of it is if we had never kept on top of understanding what information we could use, right, to as resource to get into home ownership, I mean, we would never know.
Yeah.
How would we know, right? We
Right.
probably honestly would not have never we probably never would have bought here. We thought several times about just relocating to I have family in Arizona. We were like, okay, well, maybe we're just going to end up in Arizona because as you start to, have kids, you start to think like, where am I going to put these roots down, right? So that was our path into home ownership, and it worked out very well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's just a great example of down payment assistant programs to help get your foot in the door,
Yes.
and from there, use that to catapult you to the house that you actually really want.
Absolutely. And I feel like, honestly, Ben, too, I feel like down payment assistance, I mean, I feel like you couldn't even say that word before 2025, right? I
Yeah.
feel like like if you brought in an offer and it had down payment assistance, it was automatically kind of like shuffled around and not given priority, right? But now, for example, in the condo market, there is opportunity to leverage these programs and get in a contract on a home
Yeah,
because that
because
market has slowed.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, you're right. I was just gonna say the same thing. Condos and townhomes are getting less offers. So if you are in that boat of trying to get something and you want to get your foot into the door, now is probably one of the better times than ever to be able to get that foot in the door by buying these condos or townhomes and maybe utilizing these down payment assistant programs because they're not as competitive as before.
Absolutely. And there's more than people realize. Like, Vin, that the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors, we have a down payment assistance program that awards down payment assistance in the form of a grant. So it's not even required to be repaid back.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So there's that. And there's other programs too. I know you were talking about.
Yeah, other programs like the Cal HEFA or Cal HFA. I think that's a big one now because everybody's talking about it. That's in my sphere. I'm kind of seeing like because well, and it is coming up. I think the funds are gonna be set to be like available sometime this month or March or something like that. So they're having everybody sign up, but because it's such a huge and generous amount of money that California is granting to first-time home buyers,
Hmm.
everybody and their mom is trying to sign up.
Hmm.
And what Cal HEFA is basically is it's a down payment assistance program where it's a 0% down. California is willing to give you like 150 or 200K towards your down payment. And it's basically like a second loan. So they give you this down payment. It's going to help you be able to actually buy a home, making the monthly payments. But when you build up all this equity, your home has appreciated because that's the formula in California. It hasn't
Yeah.
been anything else but up. Then by the time you have built up that equity and appreciation and you're ready to sell to move on to the bigger and badder, or badder Michael Jackson bad, but you know the bigger and better home that you want, then you just have to pay that down payment back. But, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, man, we gotta pay it back," but you wouldn't even have been able to buy that home without it. So
A hun
so these these programs are, I don't wanna say worth more than gold, but it is freaking gold, literally.
Yeah, I mean, that could be your ticket into the market. And I believe that one that you're talking about, so that's a California Dream for All appreciation loan, right?
Yeah,
Shared
true.
appreciation loan. Yeah, so the down payment loan that you take or that you are granted goes as, I believe, a silent second behind a first mortgage or otherwise. And then as the property appreciates too, you basically do share a portion of those appreciation proceeds with California once you do go and sell, which I've heard a lot of talk about that as well. And like you said, it kind of blows my mind because you wouldn't have been able to be in that house without this benefit. And I believe part of the reason for the shared appreciation is because they want to be able to continue to fund this program, right? For the years to come so that Californians don't have to leave. If they leave, it's by choice, not because they couldn't afford to live here anymore. And so when you look at it like that, I mean, I'm big on community. And so I think that that kind of puts things into perspective. On top of that, you don't have to give up all your appreciation. You will walk away with the benefits of the equity as well. So I believe they're running, I think it's open right now from what I read on the website. It's kind of like a lottery system. So you can log in, apply, and basically what you're hoping to get is a voucher. And then that voucher will give you access to up to 150,000 in down payment assistance. That can also help with closing costs and whatnot, which I just think is an amazing benefit, right?
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that, I don't know, as you were talking, it kind of reminds me of, a similar situation where you might not maybe able to get the Calhefa, but there are situations for some other people where we were talking about earlier, where their parents have purchased property because it
Mm-hmm.
was maybe more affordable at that time for them, but they bought it early and they built up all this equity or appreciation, and they're able to pass that on to their kids who are also looking to buy a home. So maybe you're lucky enough to have parents like that
Mm-hmm.
who can gift you down payment. And it's like similar to the Calhefa, like instead of California, it's your parents. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just another way that, hey, if you can't qualify for Calhefa, but you're lucky enough to have some family that are able to gift you a down payment, it's basically the same thing because at the same time, once you're able to, if you're a good son or daughter, you'd want to pay that back to your parents too, right? Or if you
Yeah.
don't have to, then you're lucky as hell, then great for you. But that should be how it goes. Like, okay, well, thanks mom and dad for the down payment. And once I'm able to sell and I have that money, I'll pay you back. And it's all good. And I'll take the rest and I'll move on to the next house because thank God you helped me with that down payment.
Yeah.
Now I really want to start again. Not start again, but move on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's different
Realize
types of down payment programs too. I mean, and they all require different things. Some will be forgivable upon, you being in the house for 4 years or 5 years or 8 years. I mean, I've had clients buy in Sacramento with the down payment assistance program. And with that particular program, it was as long as they were in the residence for 5 years, they didn't have to pay it back. Right. So there are different types of programs out there, but you've got to go ahead and figure out what you don't know. So go research, connect with the lender who offers down payment assistance programs, work with an agent who's aware of the different stuff
or
locally.
just connect with us
Yeah, just connect with us because we want to unlock home ownership for
for
so
everybody.
many,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, for so many. And a lot of the reason why we even do this podcast is because there's no gatekeeping here.
Yep.
So if this is the information that we know might help you, we're going to share it with you. And this is definitely some good stuff to help point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to add on top of that, there's 2 other loans that I'm familiar of that you don't have to pay anything back, which is the VA loan. So if you
Mhm.
served our country, you're a veteran, and eligible veterans will be able to buy a home with a 0% down,
Mhm.
and you won't have to pay anything back. And that's a benefit to our veterans from our country,
Yeah,
right?
see, thank you for
Right, right, and then there's something that's a little bit newer, not so new, but, doctor's loans,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
that's something huge that I don't hear enough of, but they're out there. But doctor's loans are similar to VA loans where if you're a doctor, then there are loan programs for you where they can loan you a down payment based on a $1 million to $2 million home. And it's just uh, in exchange for your strong earning potential. Because obviously, if you're a doctor, they're banking on you working and earning high income, which historically doctors do. So there are programs out there for you just to kind of tie that all up that, if you are looking to get a piece of the American dream, then there are solutions, right? There are strategies. And a lot of them is what we talked about already about managing expectations, buying cheaper homes to deal with for at the moment. Could be condo townhomes, but also there's different loan strategies too. Mommy, daddy, California, VA loans, doctor loans. So
occupation loans. There's occupation specific down payment assistance as well. So if you're a first responder, you're a teacher, um, these are all things benefits that you could have access to.
yes.
Yeah.
So just to kind of tie this all up, like we were both talking about in this podcast, we're just seeing that affordability is getting definitely unattainable if we're keeping it real here in the Bay Area,
Mhm.
but it's not impossible. There is solutions where you can still try to get something and get a piece of that American dream and become a have rather than a have not because we're seeing that gap just get so much wider that we don't want to have anyone who wants to own a piece of land here in the Bay Area to be left behind, basically.
Right, or unaware of the resources that could possibly help get you there.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so all that I think that was pretty helpful, right, Julia? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope whoever's watching this is able to take, one or two things, pieces of information to help them go and kind of learn more about if home ownership is right for them, if not, or how to go about it strategically so that you are able to get into a property, whether it's here in Silicon Valley, maybe it's in San Benito County or one of the surrounding areas, or maybe it's not even in California, but just information that helps you go in the right direction that you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you don't have 500K doesn't mean you can't own a home. And we want to make sure that you know that and know how to work around that.
That's right.
Yeah. And if you have 500K, great. Well, let us help. We got you. We got you. No problem.
But if you do happen to have it, send
Yeah.
us a quick message. We want to connect with you. We want to connect with all of you. If you guys
Yeah.
ever have more questions too about
Yeah.
any of the stuff that we talk about, our contact information is always pinned at the bottom. You are all welcome to reach out to us.
Yes. Well, I think that was a great episode, Julia. Until then, we'll see everybody next time. All right.
Bye.
Bye.